Man United, the big boys, back to winning ways yesterday. Did you see the game?
I did. I watched it. I loved it. I thought it was a great game. It was like a pulsating game of football. It was the game of football that we deserved on a Boxing night.
Yeah, for that time of night as well.
Yeah, I thought it was spectacular, and Manchester United did incredibly well. I think we have to take our hat off to them. They have come in for a lot of stick, legitimately. You know, Ten Hag has come in for a lot of stick, a lot of the time.
A lot more stick than Eddie Howe.
A lot more stick than Eddie Howe, and I think that's something that we should get into. But ultimately, it is a huge result, and I think you can draw parallels. I think a lot of people have of when they beat Aston Villa 3-2 previously, when Federico Makeda scored, and you know, obviously there's a great image of Johnny Evans being present that day and present yesterday night. But the one that it really echoes with for me would be, do you remember a few years ago, I think maybe 2018, Jose Mourinho's Manchester United, they played Newcastle and they were 2-0 down at half-time.
Yes.
They were 2-0 down at half-time, and then it felt like there was a sea change. There was a symbolic Manchester United type, Fergie time kind of victory where Manchester United came out the blocks in the second half and won the game 3-2. At that point, everyone said that could be the defining moment. That could be the change. That could be the exact spark to ignite Manchester United under Jose Mourinho, in the way that people are suggesting that perhaps Erik Ten Hag could be lit by this result. And Jose Mourinho was sacked about 2 months later. So I just wonder if the result that we saw last night, is that going to be a turning point for Manchester United, or is it just another false dawn?
Well, Manchester United fans, would love to hear from you. 03717 223344. Newcastle, we mentioned Eddie Howe just there. Of course, it was live on talkSPORT yesterday. St James's Park on Boxing Day. Now, that would have been rocking. That would have been, you know, how are the lads there at the Boxing Day? Let's go, man. Didn't work out, did it? There
would have been expectancy, which is a new thing on Tyneside. You know, they've always been very, very loyal and very dedicated fans, but they haven't been expectant.
No,
there hasn't been a level of expectancy. And I think that what's happened is, since the PIF came in and Eddie Howe did remarkable things last year, there is now a level of expectancy. And what happens when expectations change? It becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult for the players. It becomes very difficult for the manager, because there is a demand that is put upon them that perhaps wasn't previously. And the fact that they are currently below Manchester United in the league, when you think of the season that Manchester United are apparently having, Newcastle United are below Manchester United in the league. And think about off the back of last season. You know, Eddie Howe, he's been lauded, hasn't he? He's been like touted for the England job. Everybody's saying he's getting everything right. He's got the Midas touch. Erik Ten Hag, if you compare them directly, Erik Ten Hag finished above them last year in the league and beat them in a cup final. Since then, Eddie Howe has beaten Manchester United every time since. But they're below them in the league. I just think that Eddie Howe, compared to Erik Ten Hag, I think Eddie Howe is getting away with it massively.
Although there will be the talk about the injury crisis at Newcastle, which is vast.
Yeah,
I know Manchester United fans will say they've got injuries as well. A lot of clubs are suffering from a big injury list at the moment.
What do you think? Do you think that we hold certain managers to very different yardsticks to other ones? So, for example, I think Erik Ten Hag is treated very harshly, not necessarily incorrectly, but he's treated harshly.
He's in a very different job. A very different job. You go to Manchester United, it's the biggest club in the world. Fact. Really.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and you go there and you look at what Eddie Howe's done with Newcastle, from taking them from a relegation battle. I will never forget being on this show, on this network with Carlton Palmer.
I was with you.
That
I was
same
with
night.
you that night.
Yeah.
And Carlton Palmer did all the maths.
Did all the maths.
Yeah.
It was like countdown. He goes, if they get this,
he put his glasses on, didn't he?
Yeah,
he actually took it really seriously. He did a full equation to work out that Newcastle were in fact relegated. We were in December, weren't we?
Yeah.
He managed to work it out. He did all of the expected points. He had a look at their fixture list, and he concluded that it was impossible for Newcastle United to survive. They did survive.
And then they've gone on to go and beat PSG in the Champions League 3 or 4-0?
They beat the Razzmatazz of Paris Saint-Germain, but then they lost home and away to Dortmund. Like not getting out of that group was unacceptable. Like,
really?
Completely unacceptable.
PSG and Milan in there?
Particularly from the position that they were in.
Yeah, there is the context of it doesn't read very well.
And also, you know when you come up against teams like AC Milan and Borussia Dortmund, they're esteemed European clubs, right? So they feel very prestigious. But they're distinctly average. Like Graham Potter's Chelsea beat both AC Milan home and away and knocked Borussia Dortmund out of the Champions League. So, I think Eddie Howe, for one reason or another, does get away with it. And I think he should be held to a higher yardstick. I think that we should judge him more acutely, just in line with the way that we judge, say, Erik Ten Hag. Ultimately, who do you think is doing a better job in their respective role? Eddie Howe or Erik Ten Hag?
Eddie Howe. Because what he came into and what's expected from him. You're taking a club that was in a relegation battle under and the football that you've seen under Steve Bruce to completely revolutionise the football club and move it forward the way that he has in such a short space of time. And yeah, they've spent money, but nowhere near the same money that Ten Hag has been spending at Manchester United, with a much more clearer direction of football and style. I think yesterday, in fairness to Ten Hag, that second half was the first time I've seen Manchester United have a bit of an identity of how to play. I thought Bruno Fernandes was fantastic yesterday.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, and Alejandro Garnacho is Manchester United, isn't he? He kind of represents Manchester United so perfectly. You know, like a young, prodigious, unpredictable talent, marauding down the wing, scoring 2 goals, having another one disallowed. He is the personality of that team, an extraordinary talent. So yeah, I think the fact that they're fighting for their manager is quite impressive, because at times I've felt like they've down tools, and they clearly haven't. But we've seen these false dawns before. There was a time, fairly recently in fact, they looked like they were done. It looked like it was over for Ten Hag. They played Chelsea at Old Trafford, and they turn into Ferguson's treble winners. They have these moments, but ultimately they end up back to square one. And they've won what now? 2 games out of 8? You know, it's not exactly impressive from Ten Hag, but it's whether they can use last night's result as a sea change.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.